This one comes out of Spain. A guy named Casos is homesick, just trying to rest and get through the day, when he starts hearing strange noises coming from the kitchen. His first instinct is to ignore it. Probably nothing, right? But something told him not to. So he grabbed his phone, hit record, and went to check it out. What he caught on camera genuinely shook him.
Vuelvo a cerrar. Tengo la taza. Está. Ese es mi bebé. Esa pulguita es mi bebé, que se llama Canela. Y esperando. Aquí vean esta piolita. Ya, ahí empezó. Ya. Voy a empezar a huevear. Estoy hueveando. Bueno. No es algo muy normal. La taza se movió. El gato. No es muy agradable la sensación que se vive acá. Ya, es hueveo, ya. Ya, cabros, un ratito para afuera.
A coffee mug, just sliding across the counter by itself. And then it does it again. No draft, no vibration running through the building, no one else anywhere in the house. What makes it especially creepy is how deliberate it looks. It's not falling, it's not rolling off an edge. It moves like something is pushing it slowly, intentionally, just to make a point. If he hadn't been recording, nobody would have believed a word of it. The clip spread fast, and a lot of people watching weren't looking for a rational explanation anymore. Wyatt's family had a good thing going. Nice home, happy life, until their cat died. And almost the same day, the house changed. Noises, movement, a heaviness that hadn't been there before. They brought in professionals, tried to find a rational explanation, got nothing useful back. Then one night, Wyatt's home alone while the family's out, and the basement just erupts. Loud, violent banging coming from down there. He grabs his camera and goes down anyway. Take a look.
You guys are hearing that, right? Hello? Ever since our cat passed away, things have kind of been picking up. I'm not going back there. Hello? Damn it. Who are you? Get the hell out of here. Jesus. Dude. Stop. Oh, dude.
Crashes in the dark, objects shifting with no one touching them, and whatever is down there seems to be responding directly to his voice, like it can hear him and wants him to know it. Then a ball rolls across the floor out of absolutely nowhere. Wyatt gets out of there fast, and honestly, that was probably the right call. That footage got labeled one of the most disturbing paranormal clips ever recorded, and watching it, that's not hard to believe.
Excuse me. Are you back there again? This has become its favorite spot. Now, and there he is. Okay, that's enough water, please. Okay. Everyone can see you in their reflection, bud. Everyone can see you in their reflection. And it's gone. Okay. I know he's not in here, but I just want anyone who's watching to see. This is too small. But just look, it's not. I just wanted you to see. The cabinets are knocking again. I'm leaving. That's enough for today.
That wasn't the end of it, though. A few days later, same situation, son at school, house completely quiet, Wyatt alone. He starts recording again, and the faucet just turns on by itself. Objects nudge and shift like invisible hands are brushing past them. And then, in the reflection on the refrigerator door, he sees it. A dark shadow figure moving slowly out of frame. He goes after it immediately. The room is empty. No sound, nothing out of place, just silence. Wyatt put the camera down and left the house. At that point, he wasn't looking for proof anymore. He'd already seen more than enough. Meet Jack, a TikTok guy who's really into collecting old antique stuff. Cool hobby, right? Except somewhere along the way, it seems like something followed one of those relics home. He'd laugh it off publicly, but behind closed doors, weird things had been going on for years. Objects moving when no one touched them, scratching sounds with no source, and noises at 3 a.m. that had no business being there. Take a look.
Okay folks, as you can see, it's almost 20 past 10 in the morning. I decided to start filming because I knew something wasn't right in this house this morning. I've got the fire on, as you can see there, and it's warm outside, but the house is freezing. And furthermore, there's constant, I don't know, scratchy type noises coming from the dining room. So I've got it out there, that's the car, on the off chance. If you're making noises in here, make yourself known. Do it now while I've got an actual camera out again. It's driving me absolutely wild, to be honest. Oh, it's cold. Can you do something to make your presence known? Oh, my TV's gone off. Right, okay. Ooh, there's a bit of an atmosphere, you know, guys. Cat's acting a bit weird as well. What's wrong? You okay? What? Right. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Woo, I'm freaked out. Thank you. What is it you want? Why do you just randomly flare every now and then? The cat is going nuts at the bottom of the stairs. If you've just moved that chair, do something for me again. Can you hear that noise? Sophia, what are you doing? Whoa, what was that? What was that? What was that? What? Jesus.
What you just watched is honestly hard to brush off. sounds bleeding out of the dining room with no explanation, his cat completely losing it, and the TV just switching off out of nowhere. And then there's the chair. Jack's demeanor shifts pretty noticeably as things escalate. You can tell this isn't the first time, but it's clearly hitting different this time around. He became fully convinced that whatever attached itself to one of his antiques had no intention of leaving. And honestly, watching it back, it's hard to argue with him. August 27th, 2024. A store manager is closing up alone, just working through a stack of boxes, completely routine. Then that feeling hits, the one where the hairs on your arms go up and your brain starts insisting you're not by yourself. He wanted proof before he said a word to anyone, so he went straight to the security room and pulled up the footage.
I dislike. He's putting things away from the box. All right, now watch. I want you guys to focus on this area right here. Okay? Hold on, let me speed this up a bit.
They haven't got the first clue on how to use it.
All right, watch.
If you have the doctrine right and you stow it on a shelf in your closet and do not pull that doctrine out.
Boom, you see that?
What good does that
I'm gonna
doctrine?
get back here for you guys to give you a better view. Look at that. And I'm just like tripping, like, what? Okay, but pay attention to this area right here.
I can grant that they've checked
Watch.
the shop that could teach justification correctly. But so what? It's not what I asked you.
Is that you? Look, I'm here by myself. Nobody's here. It's just me. See that? Come out. I'm not afraid of you. Is that you? That threw down the box earlier? Come on out. You don't scare me. Come on out, pussy. Always trying to mess with me. Ooh! Oh, shit. No. Hell no. Hell no. Let me see. Hold on. Where am I? I'm here. Where am I though? What's it? Look, there I am right there. Look, you see that? You see that? Nah. Nah.
At first, it's just him on camera, stacking, organizing, normal closing shift stuff. And then a box drops. No one near it, nothing to explain it. He rewinds, watches it again, still nothing. But it gets worse the further he watches. Standing near the side entrance, his hair suddenly yanks backwards, like something grabbed it. He spins around, completely empty room. He doesn't walk away from that spot. He runs. Going back through the footage later,
There is no one within reach of him when it happens, not even close. The manager has no doubt about what was in that store with him that night, and after seeing the footage, it's really hard to push back on that.
So, this one genuinely messed people up when it first started circulating. A woman comes out and tells everyone that the doll sitting in her house is haunted, that it moves on its own. Naturally, the internet wasn't buying it, so she did something bold. She set up a camera in her storage closet and live streamed the whole thing for anyone to watch. Here's the thing, the doll doesn't move, not even a little, but everything around it, absolute chaos. Boxes, containers, random stuff just launching across the room like something's throwing a tantrum in there. No wind, no one nearby, no logical reason for any of it. A good chunk of viewers were convinced the doll itself was cursed. Some even swore they caught it shifting slightly right before everything went flying. But since the original source was never tracked down, nobody really knows what to make of it. Hannah's home alone, and it's late. She starts hearing creaking on the staircase. Not a one-off sound, but slow and consistent, like footsteps. She does what most people do first and tries to ignore it, but it keeps going. So she pulls out her phone and starts recording, probably hoping it'll turn out to be nothing.
1, 2. I was invited because of lesbian geography, and we've been together almost ever since for 40 years.
What was your first impression of her after I told her?
So exhausted. We're in a normal Molly sweatsuit. And I was in blue jeans and a plaid button-down shirt and a big Hello?
The camera picks it up clearly. Deliberate, rhythmic creaks coming step by step, and not a single person on those stairs. Her dog isn't fooled though. The second those sounds start, it's up, alert, barking directly at the staircase like it's reacting to something real standing right there. And then the footsteps get heavier and faster, rushing down the stairs like something is charging toward her. Hannah just freezes. She said this kind of thing had happened before in the house, but nothing like this. Whatever it was that night, it hasn't been explained. This one started as just a normal pregame clip. 2 players warming up, passing the ball around. Nothing unusual. The kind of footage you'd scroll past without a second thought. But once it got posted online, people started hitting pause and pointing at the background. And once you see what they're pointing at, you really can't unsee it. Take a look.
When you get quicker, what tends to happen? More mistakes happen. But that is what development looks like. If you're cruising at a speed that's comfortable, yes, it looks good and it looks cleaner, but you're not going to get better. You have making mistakes here, and then you get to that level, and then you go again, and it's never ending. It's the same.
Hidden in the bleachers behind the players, there's something moving. And that's what makes it so unsettling. You can clearly see other people in the same shot, regular human shapes standing around. But this thing moves completely differently. It kind of glides or darts along the seating area in a way that just doesn't look right. Then it's gone. Some people are saying it's just a shadow or a lighting trick. Others aren't so sure. The person who posted the video never gave an explanation, so it's just sitting there, unresolved, doing what creepy footage does best. This guy is just having a regular night in, sitting on his couch, phone in hand, completely unbothered. But that feeling starts to creep in. You know the one. That quiet, irrational sense that you're not actually alone. He tries to shake it off, tells himself he's being paranoid, and then he looks toward the window and sees something standing outside, looking back at him.
Okay, look, I'm really tripping out now. Something was looking at me through the window, and I heard I'm freaking out. I am tripping. There's something in this house with me. There's something in here. I'm telling you. No.
It doesn't stop at the window. Moments later, things inside the kitchen start moving on their own, and that's when he completely loses it. You can hear it in his breathing, in the way his voice starts breaking. He's not performing fear, he's in it. Whatever showed up at that window apparently decided to come inside, and what it did in that kitchen left him and everyone watching with way more questions than answers. John keeps to himself mostly. Makes music, plays games, pretty low-key existence. His apartment was his comfort zone, the one place that always felt completely his. That changed when the tapping started. Faint at first, easy enough to dismiss, coming from somewhere inside the walls.
I'm the only one here right now. And as you can clearly hear, there's just someone out there.
Welcome back to what is in my apartment while I'm home alone. Like, what could... Now, last time I didn't do this. I'm gonna open this door and it's gonna stop. I hate it.
He tried telling himself it was the building. Old pipes, settling walls, the usual excuses people make. But it kept coming back, and every time it did, it was louder and more aggressive than before. Then one night, while he's gaming, it just erupts. He grabs his phone and starts moving toward it, and the knocking actually speeds up as he gets closer, like it knows he's coming. He opens the door. Silence. Nothing there. Just gone. John hasn't fully settled back into that apartment since, and honestly, after watching this, you'd understand why.
Late night, empty highway, complete darkness on both sides of the road. A couple in the Russian city of Kirov are just driving, everything calm, nothing out of the ordinary, and then suddenly, without any warning at all, something appears right in front of the car.
Там мужик на дороге стоял.
The driver swerves hard, barely missing what looks like a person just standing dead still in the middle of the road. But here's what really gets under your skin. It doesn't react at all. A car is flying toward it at full speed, and it just stands there. Then it's gone, like it was never there in the first place. The couple were visibly shaken, and when the footage got online, people couldn't agree on what they were looking at. Ghost, hallucination, camera glitch, everyone had a theory. Nobody had an answer, and that clip has been circulating ever since.
A guy in Mexico decided to play around with a spirit board one evening out of pure curiosity. For days, absolutely nothing happened, and he started thinking the whole thing was a waste of time. Then, one night, home alone, he heard footsteps in the hallway, faint at first, then closer, then impossible to ignore. Take a look.
Chi c'è? Chi è? Chi fa casino? Chi è che si sentiva? Chi c'è?
Out of nowhere, something crashed behind him and he couldn't move. The air in the room changed, heavy,
dense, like someone was standing right next to him, even though he couldn't see a thing. It rattled him badly. But it didn't stop there. 3 days later, his wife was home alone, and it came for her too.
Chi c'è? La luce. Chi è stato? Chi ha bussato? Non sono pazza. Non sono pazza. C'è qualcuno? Chi c'è? Dove sei? Fatti vedere. Dove sei? No, dove? Da dove? La cucina, la cucina, la cucina. Cazzo. Cazzo. Qui sto sfuggendo di mano.
She heard knocking at the front door, then strange sounds drifting in from the kitchen, then glassware started falling and shattering on the floor with no one near it. Whatever they let in seemed to be growing more confident. They both believe now that that spirit board opened something they had no idea how to close. Was it just fear snowballing out of control, or did they genuinely invite something dark into their home?
This guy knew this warehouse. He'd worked there long enough that walking through it in the dark should have felt like second nature. But the night he went back after his shift to grab something he'd forgotten, the lights wouldn't turn on.
I'm about to quit.
And somewhere in that pitch-black hallway, a woman's voice rang out, clear as day. There were no women working that night. That entire section of the building was locked. It was supposed to be completely abandoned. His boss pulled up the security footage looking for a rational answer. He didn't find one.
No, I ain't seen this. Oh my God. What the fuck? Y'all, this shit is wild. It happened right in here. That is fucking crazy. Y'all see that on camera? Rewind the camera back. That's fucking crazy. I gotta be in here one day when it's dark so I can catch that. Wow. It's insane, y'all.
Right there on the camera, a pale, human-shaped figure drifting silently through the warehouse. The way it moved didn't look like it belonged to this world. Nobody has ever been able to explain what it was. And the story doesn't end there. To this day, the warehouse security cameras still trigger motion alerts on their own in the middle of the night, like something is still making its rounds through those dark corridors long after everyone else has gone home. Kyle was just doing an explore, walking through an abandoned house, filming a quick walkthrough to show his partner later. He was expecting dusty furniture, maybe some old junk left behind, normal abandoned house stuff. But the moment he stepped inside, something already felt off. and the footage proves he was right to trust that feeling.
Just got home from work. This needs to stop. I need help, please. Going to explore it later.
Right there in the first few seconds of the video, sitting silently in the empty house, a black cat just staring, which is already unsettling on its own because animals avoid places like that. They don't stay in them. Then a nearby door starts shaking hard with no wind and no draft to explain it. But here's where it gets worse. Later that same night, Kyle's partner sent him a clip from their own home, a door rattling violently on its own, and a doll that had been sitting in plain view earlier in the day had completely vanished. Whatever Kyle walked into that abandoned house didn't stay there when he left.
This one comes out of Spain. A guy named Casos is homesick, just trying to rest and get through the day, when he starts hearing strange noises coming from the kitchen. His first instinct is to ignore it. Probably nothing, right? But something told him not to. So he grabbed his phone, hit record, and went to check it out. What he caught on camera genuinely shook him.
Vuelvo a cerrar. Tengo la taza. Esa es mi bebé. Esa pulguita es mi bebé, que se llama Canela. Y esperando. Aquí vean esta piolita. Ya, ahí empezó. Ya. Voy a empezar a huevear. Estoy hueveando. Bueno. No es algo muy normal. La taza se movió. El gato. No es muy agradable la sensación que se vive acá. Ya, es hueveo, ya. Ya, cabros, un ratito para afuera.
A coffee mug, just sliding across the counter by itself. And then it does it again. No draft, no vibration running through the building, no one else anywhere in the house. What makes it especially creepy is how deliberate it looks. It's not falling, it's not rolling off an edge. It moves like something is pushing it slowly, intentionally, just to make a point. If he hadn't been recording, nobody would have believed a word of it. The clip spread fast, and a lot of people watching weren't looking for a rational explanation anymore. Meet Jack, a TikTok guy who's really into collecting old antique stuff. Cool hobby, right?
Except somewhere along the way, it seems like something followed one of those relics home. He'd laugh it off publicly, but behind closed doors, weird things had been going on for years. Objects moving when no one touched them, scratching sounds with no source, and noises at 3 a.m. that had no business being there. Take a look.
Okay folks, as you can see, it's almost 20 past 10 in the morning. I decided to start filming because I knew something wasn't right in this house this morning. I've got the fire on, as you can see there, and it's warm outside, but the house is freezing. And furthermore, there's constant, I don't know, scratchy type noises coming from the dining room. So I've got it out there, that's the car, on the off chance. If you're making noises in here, make yourself known. Do it now while I've got an actual camera out again. It's driving me absolutely wild, to be honest. Oh, it's cold. Can you do something to make your presence known? Oh, my TV's gone off. Right, okay. Ooh, there's a bit of an atmosphere, you know, guys. Cat's acting a bit weird as well. What's wrong? You okay? What? Right. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Woo, I'm freaked out. Thank you. What is it you want? Why do you just randomly flare every now and then? The cat is going nuts at the bottom of the stairs. If you've just moved that chair, do something for me again. Can you hear that noise? Sophia, what are you doing? Whoa, what was that? What was that? What was that? What? Jesus.
What you just watched is honestly hard to brush off. Sounds bleeding out of the dining room with no explanation, his cat completely losing it, and the TV just switching off out of nowhere. And then there's the chair. Jack's demeanor shifts pretty noticeably as things escalate. You can tell this isn't the first time, but it's clearly hitting different this time around. He became fully convinced that whatever attached itself to one of his antiques had no intention of leaving. And honestly, watching it back, it's hard to argue with him. This woman works the night shift at a 911 dispatch center, and she started noticing things she couldn't explain. The late hours, the empty hallways, the silence between calls. That's when it started. And once it started, it didn't stop. Take a look.
Phone at work again. Holter's acting up as we're now referring to her. Maybe it's somebody. I don't know. Nobody should be here. There's literally no one here.
Phones ringing with no connection, drawers sliding open by themselves. And sometimes, in the quiet, she'd hear something whisper her name. What really gets me, though, is the timing.
All of this started the exact same day her supervisor announced they were moving to a new building, almost like whatever was in there overheard that conversation and decided it wasn't going anywhere. Then one night she's recording and she sees something standing in the break room doorway. Watch closely.
So, y'all have been following my polter diaries here lately. So I'm pretty sure there's something standing in the doorway to the break room. Am I crazy, or is that somebody standing there? Do y'all see that?
She just stops, stares, tries to figure out if she's actually seeing what she thinks she's seeing. After she posted the footage, people online told her whatever it was, don't acknowledge it, don't talk to it. Her boss eventually made sure she was never alone in the building again, but even that didn't make the noises stop. No intruder was ever found, no explanation was ever given. So was it just a stressed out mind working too many late shifts? Or is that building still holding on to something from every desperate call ever made inside its walls? This one happened to a woman out on a solo hike through a wooded trail in a pretty remote area. It was supposed to be a nice, peaceful walk. It was anything but that. Something out there in those trees changed everything.
Hola. Ay, no mames. Güey, ¿qué pedo? No mames, no mames. A la verga. ¿Qué se oye?
Her heart just drops. She thinks maybe someone's lost out there. So she calls back asking who's there. And instead of a name or a response that makes any sense, the voice says 2 words, "Come here." That was enough. She ran. Because it wasn't just what it said, it was how it sounded. Wrong in a way she couldn't explain. She went back a few days later with friends to see if they could find anything. Whatever had been out there was gone, or at least that's what she's hoping. A young graphic designer rented a small workshop for his new clothing brand. While setting up, he found a few old mannequins dumped near the building, free display pieces, so he kept them. He didn't think twice. That was his first mistake. Within days, things started happening in that room he couldn't explain. One night at 3 a.m., he finally picked up his phone and started recording.
La verdad nunca me levanté hasta ahora. Concha de la lora, no, boludo, no. No jodas, boludo. No jodas. Es el maniquí, boludo. Es el maniquí, la concha de la lora. Me chupa 3 huevos, me voy a fijar igual, boludo. Se la concha de su madre. Qué hija de puta, boludo. No te la puedo creer. Y escuché hace un ratito escuché que deslizaban esto. Como si estuvieran revisando la ropa, boludo. Alto cagazo me hizo pegar esta mierda. La concha de la madre, boludo. No.
For just a brief second, something peers from behind that corner, and then it's gone. He steps inside, trying to stay calm, and then one of the mannequins shifts slightly, like it turned to face him. He ran. The next day, he set up a camera to prove it was nothing. Watch closely.
Bueno, esto parece que se rompió. No sé quién habrá sido. Y toda la ropa en el piso. Esto es una locura. Yo no puedo creer esto. Yo no puedo creer. No puedo creer esto. ¡Ah!
Because over the next few hours, the footage shows that same mannequin slowly changing position on its own, and then the clothes start falling off the racks, one by one. No reason, no draft, no one in the room. He didn't imagine it. The camera saw it too. Whatever came with those mannequins from that dumpster, it settled in, and it wasn't done. Some things are thrown away for a reason. Alberto runs a tattoo setup from a room inside his house. One room, his equipment, his chair, his clients. Normal enough. Until things started happening in that room he couldn't explain.
A darle. Me enteré. A mi esposa. La neta ya me soy bien culo, la neta. Ya ni quisiera. ¿Hay alguien ahí? ¿Hay alguien ahí? No mames, no mames. ¿Ya viste, hija? ¿Ya viste, hija? ¿Hay alguien ahí? Espérate, hija. ¡Ey! ¡Ay, cabrón! Lupita, hasta para allá, Lupita.
Pues tú hazte para acá, ¿entiende?
Pues no hay alguien aquí, hija. ¡Ay, cabrón!
Entiende, que ya te hagas para acá.
Su puta nomás, vámonos para allá. Yo creo que sí lo voy a meter. Cerrar con seguro. Las llaves. No hay nadie en la casa. Ah, me pegué. Puta madre. No. Absolutamente nadie. No hay nadie. Wow. Yo por eso no lo quería hacer.
A chair turning on its own, objects sliding off the table like something was pushing them. He started recording more and more, and the more he recorded, the more it escalated, until that room stopped feeling like it was only his.
Los chuchos. Ah, Dios mío. Voy a buscar las llaves. No mames, me la jalaron. ¿Qué hago? Voy a entrar. Ay, güey. Mames. Voy a entrar. Aquí no hay nadie. Voy a poner la de esta para que vean que no hay nadie. Sí, es cierto, lo del cuadro de la monja. No me había fijado yo en este.
In another recording, the door, he starts hearing knocking from inside the walls, doors opening and closing by themselves, and the entire room begins to carry a weight that wasn't there before, like something is trying to get his attention, or like it already has it. Some people who watched his footage believe he unknowingly brought something into that room.
Está viendo la tele, mi perrita se puso incómoda porque están tocando la puerta, pero no sé si oyen. Pero la neta no hay nadie.
An object, an energy, something that decided to stay. The activity never stopped. It grew. Alberto kept the camera running. At this point, it might be the only thing keeping him sane.
In an isolated mountain area called Mazamitla, there are wooden vacation cabins tucked between the trees, the kind of place that looks peaceful until the sun goes down. One night, around 4 a.m., a man sleeping in his cabin was jolted awake by loud knocking coming from outside. He lay there, listening, and then something inside the cabin moved on its own. TV. No one near it, no remote. It simply turned itself on in the middle of the night. But that's only the beginning. The following night, something in the forest started screaming. Not an animal, a woman, loud enough to echo across the entire valley. Locals say a woman died alone in a nearby cabin years ago, under circumstances nobody fully explained, and some of them claim she's still out there, still watching. They say she's even been caught on camera.
Right there, behind that tree, a pale face peering out, disappearing, then reappearing, watching. This isn't a one-time incident either. It keeps happening at Mazamitla. The knocking, the screams, the face in the trees. Visitors keep coming back with footage, and whatever is out there in those woods keeps showing up in it.
If you made it through all of these, drop a comment and let me know which one got under your skin the most. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. See you in the next one.
Brian had been living with something he couldn't explain for almost 2 years. It started small, little sounds here and there, but it kept getting worse. One night, his friend was crashing at his place when they both heard it. Knocking, coming from inside the closet. Brian grabs his phone, wakes his friend up, and they slowly walk toward that door together. What happens next, nobody was ready for.
Get up. Get up. Get up. You recorded me for. You're here. Listen. Sleep. Touch that door. Oh, off the that Ouija board. I'm getting in this room. I can't see.
By the time they opened it, silence. Everything inside looked completely normal. Nothing out of place, nobody there. His friend brushed it off, and maybe Brian tried to as well, but he knew.
This might be the last time.
At the end of that hallway, something was standing there, still, just blending into the dark like it belonged there. And then it moved, fast, straight toward him. Brian threw the door shut, but whatever it was, it didn't leave.
Gabe? Gabe, it's your mom.
Emily was alone in her room late at night when she heard her name being called from the other side of her door, and it sounded exactly like her mom. Her mom wasn't home. She started recording.
Gabe? Gabe, it's your mom. You should come out. You've been there for so long. Gabe, come out. Gabe? Gabe, it's your mother. You should come out.
Then what's your name then?
Whatever was on the other side, calling her name, it wasn't her mother. This guy makes content exploring abandoned places, so he figured he'd go check out a network of old drainage tunnels running underneath the city. It's dark, it's narrow, water dripping somewhere in the distance. Standard creepy stuff. But then, out of nowhere, he hears this scream, and it doesn't sound like anything he can explain. Human or animal, he genuinely couldn't tell, but he kept the camera rolling anyway.
I'm really not looking forward to this. I don't know what that was. I need to take a breather. What the f? Nope. I'm dipping out. This shit. I don't know what that is. Oh fuck.
He backed up slowly, and then it screamed again, closer. That was all he needed. He turned around and ran, and he didn't stop. He still has no idea what was down in those tunnels with him. Daniel started noticing things almost as soon as he moved into his new place. At first, it was easy to dismiss. A knock here, something slightly moved there, but it kept building. Then, one night, he hears loud banging coming from his bathroom.
Empiezo a grabar porque estoy escuchando sonidos desde el baño muy raros y estoy solo en casa.
The room looks fine until the shower curtain slowly starts moving on its own, then rips down to the floor.
No se va a activar esto solo, tío. No se apaga. Se acaba de activar esto solo. Cojones. Hola. Acabo de activar la cámara, chico, porque estoy escuchando sonidos de nuevo que vienen de la habitación. Hola. ¿Qué es lo que quieres? ¿Hay alguien en mi casa? ¿Hay alguna entidad? ¿Hola? Miren, chicos, miren. ¿Hola?
A toy keyboard plays itself. Doors slam on their own. Daniel is completely unraveling at this point, so he reaches out to a local priest. The priest hears everything, goes quiet for a moment, and then says something that chilled Daniel to his core. It might not be the house. It could be following you. And sure enough, days later, it was back.
Son las 12 de la noche.
Worse than ever. This time he heard breathing in the dark, and then, when he turned the light on, a face was right there in the doorway. This guy works night security at an industrial building, completely alone, dead quiet, nothing but the hum of the lights keeping him company. For weeks, he'd been noticing things that just didn't feel right. Then one night, mid-patrol, he picks up a faint noise near a small opening up by the ceiling. He points his camera at it, and honestly, in the moment, nothing looks off. But when he gets home and pulls up the footage, his stomach drops. You need to see this. A pale hand slowly reaches out from inside that opening, grips the structure, then pulls back into the dark like it was never there. This man swears nobody else was in that building that night. Kareem went out to film an old psychiatric facility that had been locked up for decades, shut down after some really dark allegations about what went on inside. The place looked dead from the outside, but the second he walked through that door, something felt wrong. He's moving through this narrow hallway when debris starts raining down from the ceiling. He figures it's just an unstable building until a chunk of it actually hits him in the shoulder. He shakes it off and pushes into what used to be an intake room. That's where it gets bad.
وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. أبو محمد
A massive wooden panel propped against the wall starts trembling. No wind, no reason, and then it slams to the floor like something shoved it. Kareem just froze, because at that point it wasn't feeling like a coincidence anymore. It felt like whatever was still in that building knew he was there. Old structure settling, or something that never checked out. These two friends are just hanging out at home, normal evening, nothing going on, when one of them feels it. This sudden blast of cold air sweeping through the room, strong enough to raise every hair on his arms.
Did you just experience something?
Bro, I swear to God, dude, I felt something really cold.
Really? What?
Dude, what the f? Oh my God.
What the Whoa, shit. Dude, I kid you not, there's like literally nobody in there. What the dude?
Within seconds, something starts moving in the kitchen, and then bang, bang, bang! Objects fly off the counter one after another, crashing to the floor like something just swept them off. No pets, no open windows, nothing that could explain it. These two were terrified, and when they re-watched the footage later, it somehow looked even more deliberate than it felt in the moment. Whatever was in that room wasn't stumbling around. It wanted to make a point.
This guy is just winding down for the night, TV on, totally relaxed, when out of nowhere, silverware slides out of his kitchen drawer on its own. No one else is home, nothing touched it.
God damn it. This is getting old.
Shit! What the f? You gotta come out. What the f? Shit. This, I'm out of here.
He mutes the TV and goes to check. Kitchen's empty, windows closed, nothing to see. So he goes back to the couch and tries to settle back in. That's when the night really turned on him. Out of the corner of his eye, a tall, dark figure, just standing there, watching him. It didn't move toward him. It didn't do anything threatening. It just stood there, making sure he could see it, and that somehow made it so much worse. This YouTuber named Hoopla22 thought he was home alone, but something in the house said otherwise. His first thought was his buddy Derek, who had a history of breaking in as a prank, so he pulls out his phone to catch him in the act. Then his dog Nala starts going absolutely crazy, barking like he'd never heard her bark before.
Nala! 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 Nala?
Derek?
Nala, come on out. Nala, come on out, seriously.
Derek?
Nala, where'd you go, princess? Nala?
Baby. No. What's wrong, Angel? Who do I love? Who do I love, pretty girl? Hmm. Okay.
That is so weird. I've like never seen her that scared. Never seen her get that scared.
Derek? Derek, that you?
Nala. Nala. Come on, we're going. Nala, we're leaving. Let's go. Come on, baby.
He's calling out Derek's name, searching room by room, and then he finds Nala. She's hiding in the bedroom, shaking, pressed into the corner, refusing to move. Hoopla 22 said he had genuinely never seen her like that. Then a noise comes from the kitchen. He grabs Nala, tries to get out, and the bedroom door slams shut on its own right in front of him. That's the moment it clicked. This wasn't Derek. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a person. Hoopla 22 and Nala haven't gone back since. Nala still isn't acting like herself. He believes something paranormal was in that house, but not everyone agrees. So what do you think? Is there a rational explanation here, or was something genuinely in there with them that night? A paranormal investigator started getting reports about an abandoned house tucked away in some remote village. Locals were saying something messed up happened there almost every single night. So naturally, he decides to go check it out himself. He's walking through this dark, hollow house, and then, well, just watch.
Oh, il y a un bruit.
Qu'est-ce que c'est ça? Quelqu'un? Abusé. Oh la dinguerie. C'est qui là-bas? Y'a quelqu'un? Bon allez, je vais dire ça comme ça. Si c'est un démon, fais-moi bouger autre chose. Ah mais c'est obligé, il y a quelqu'un là-bas. Il y a quelqu'un qui se cache ici? Quelqu'un qui se cache ici, c'est obligé. Tu es entouré par un démon? Edgar? Edgar?
Yeah, he'd seen enough. Completely shaken, he got himself out of that room as fast as he could. But instead of leaving, he tried to pull it together and check another part of the house. That was a mistake. What his phone camera picked up next was on a completely different level.
Quelqu'un? Qu'est-ce que c'est ça?
C'est un truc de fou, gros.
S'il y a une entité ici avec moi, fais-moi bouger autre chose, s'il te plaît.
Fais attention avec, fais gaffe.
Abusé. La dinguerie. Pour te rassurer, je suis là en paix. Et je suis en retour. Si c'est un démon, pour confirmer si c'est toi, pose-moi un objet.
Ouais, je pense que c'est un démon.
Confirme-moi que c'est toi. La dinguerie. Hallucinant.
He didn't stick around after that, walked straight out and didn't look back. And honestly, can you blame him? The real question is, what would you have done if you were standing in that house?
Stacy Honecker, 32, called Mount Holly, North Carolina home. She was married to her high school sweetheart, Joshua, and they were raising their 2 daughters, Piper and Willow. Everyone who knew her described her the same way, a great mother and a happy person. Yet, beneath this seemingly perfect picture of domestic life, something sinister was escalating. On September 23rd, 2018, Stacy's life was abruptly and cruelly stolen in a calculated and chilling manner. Born Stacy Robinson in Mecklenburg County to John and Susie Robinson, she was one of 4 siblings, including brothers Eric and Paul and the sister Amy. After graduating from East Gaston High School, Stacy earned an associate's degree in paralegal sciences from Gaston College. She initially worked as a paralegal at Ted Grieve and Associates, and later at Reagan & Reagan, before deciding to pursue her true passion, teaching. She went on to work at several preschools, including First Baptist Charlotte, First Methodist Preschool in Mount Holly, and finally at the Stowe Young Men's Christian Association, YMCA. Stacy was also known for her creativity. Her friend Shell O'Day noted Stacy's skill at crafting, particularly her painted wooden signs that she would sell. In the summer of 2018, O'Day visited Stacy's home to collect a custom welcome sign she had purchased for $50. Stacy first met Joshua Lee Honecker while working at a department store. He was 2 years her senior, and what first caught his attention was her impressive height. Stacy stood at 5'11", and Joshua topped her at 6'5". Stacy initially turned him down several times when he asked her out, but Joshua was persistent. He discovered that she plays softball and began showing up at her practices, eventually joining her team. Both were talented players with genuine potential to play professionally. Their relationship eventually turned romantic, and they married in 2010 in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Having been together since high school, they were widely regarded as a happy couple. They welcomed 2 daughters, Piper Elizabeth and Willow Darlene. By then, Joshua had established a successful career working as a flight paramedic with Atrium Health's Med Center Air, a position he had held since 2013. Joshua, a former college football player, was known for being confident and persuasive. Stacy transitioned into a full-time homemaker, dedicating herself completely to raising their daughters. Their social life involved enjoying concerts and cookouts with friends. Shell O'Day, a friend, described them simply as a cute couple and never witnessed any arguments between them. Stacy was also a devoted lifetime member of the Mount Holly United Methodist Church, where she was active in numerous groups and activities. Her personal joys included crafting, trips to the beach, watching sports, and taking countless pictures of her daughters and herself. However, challenges were hidden beneath this pleasant exterior. In February 2013, following the birth of their first daughter, Piper, Stacy began suffering from unexplained medical issues. Her symptoms were vague yet deeply concerning, and her health continued to deteriorate without doctors being able to find a clear explanation. Just 5 months later, in July 2013, tragedy struck. A devastating house fire ripped through their home, incinerating most of their possessions. The blaze left the couple profoundly shaken, both emotionally and financially. The devastating fire meant everything they had worked for was gone. Friends immediately rallied to support the young family in their efforts to rebuild. Suzanne Steinbronner, a friend of the couple, launched the GoFundMe campaign to help with the accumulating costs. This fundraising page would later serve as a record of Stacy's increasingly mysterious medical decline. Unfortunately, Stacy's health issues only compounded their troubles. In November 2014, shortly after the birth of their second daughter, Willow, Stacy was hospitalized with dangerously low heart rate and blood pressure. She required a stay in the intensive care unit for several days. Despite countless tests, the medical team was baffled, unable to determine the cause of her symptoms. It seemed as if her body was being attacked by an invisible enemy. Suzanne updated the GoFundMe page, stating that after extensive testing, the doctors were still stumped as to what was going on. The crisis deepened in January 2015. Stacy was readmitted due to a low heart rate, and this time, the situation became life-threatening. Soon after settling into her room, she suffered cardiac arrest. Her heart simply stopped beating. She was placed on a ventilator, fighting for her life, while doctors desperately tried to comprehend what was happening to the young woman. The following month, February 2015, an astonishing decision was made. Stacy had a pacemaker implanted. This was an extreme measure for a woman not yet 30 years old. Needing a device to regulate her heartbeat suggested a serious, fundamental defect in her heart's electrical system. What no one realized at the time was that these were not natural medical problems at all. In hindsight, every symptom Stacy experienced was later found to be consistent with poisoning from tetrahydrozoline. When ingested, this chemical can severely and sometimes fatally affect the heart and body. The pattern had been evident all along: repeated, unexplained episodes of dangerously low heart rate and blood pressure. These were sudden cardiac events that completely baffled medical professionals. A young woman with no history of heart disease in her family was suddenly in need of a pacemaker. Joshua, with his extensive medical training as a flight paramedic, would have known exactly what symptoms to anticipate. He would have known how to administer the poison in doses that were not immediately lethal, but which would cause chronic, debilitating health issues. Furthermore, he would have been aware that standard medical tests would fail to detect it, and that doctors would ultimately attribute her decline to a heart condition rather than suspecting poisoning. For Stacy's mother, Susie, there was a persistent, nagging worry. If she had a bad dream, she would immediately call her daughter to confirm she was safe. A mother's instinct, sensing that something was wrong, even if she couldn't pinpoint the cause. The medical emergencies, however, had created another devastating problem: crushing debt. While the GoFundMe campaign provided some relief, the financial pressure was enormous. Hospital stays, specialist visits, the pacemaker surgery, and ongoing care resulted in bills that relentlessly mounted. All the while, Joshua was executing a plan far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. He was slowly and methodically poisoning his wife, carefully building a medical history that would ensure her eventual sudden death appeared to be inevitable, unremarkable, and entirely natural. Then, on the evening of September 23, 2018, Joshua placed a 911 call. Joshua informed the responding officers that he had discovered his 32-year-old wife unresponsive, slumped over the side of the couch. However, his account of his actions just before finding her became a major point of suspicion, as his story kept shifting and changing depending on who he was speaking to. To the police. At the scene, he claimed he had stepped outside to ensure their cars were locked, citing a recent spate of auto burglaries as his reason, a plausible explanation. He told a friend he had simply gone for a walk to burn off some energy. He offered yet another version, saying he had been sitting in the backyard cutting wood for signs he produced. He told Susie he had been sitting at the kitchen table working on his laptop with his back to Stacy. When he turned around, he saw her slumped over the couch. 4 different stories, 4 different versions. The fact that his narrative changed so frequently strongly suggested deception, as the truth about finding a deceased loved one typically remains constant. When paramedics arrived, they found Stacy unresponsive, psionic, blue, and not breathing. They rushed her to the hospital, but despite all efforts, it was too late. Stacy Robinson Hunsucker was pronounced dead. The cause of death seemed clear to everyone: cardiac arrest. Given her well-documented heart problems, the pacemaker, and her history of mysterious cardiac events, local police treated it as a natural death, a tragic but not suspicious passing of a young woman whose heart had simply failed. However, Joshua's actions and the hours and days following her death were deeply concerning. He refused to allow a coroner to perform an autopsy, remaining absolutely adamant. This was highly unusual, especially because Stacy had registered to be an organ donor, which typically requires facilitating the donation process. Joshua, nonetheless, was insistent and unwavering. Within just 2 days, Stacy's body was cremated. The specific evidence that eventually allowed investigators to connect Joshua to Stacy's death, despite the swift cremation, centered on 2 main factors: his shifting narratives and suspicious behavior, and the subsequent discovery of a toxic substance in Stacy's system, revealed through a highly unusual separate investigation. Investigators realized that Joshua's 4 conflicting stories, checking car locks, going for a walk, cutting wood, and working on his laptop, all served one purpose: to account for a period of time when he was not in the room with Stacy, thus creating a window during which he could have administered the fatal substance. His immediate focus on claiming the $250,000 in life insurance and the unseemly haste in cremating Stacy's body, which destroyed much of the physical evidence, further fueled their suspicion. Crucially, Because Stacy was an organ donor, samples had been collected by the Organ Procurement Organization before her body was cremated. Although Joshua had refused a formal coroner's autopsy, these stored samples were later obtained and tested by investigators. The toxicology report from these samples delivered the smoking gun. Stacy had a lethal level of tetrahydrozoline in her system. This evidence proved that Stacy had been poisoned, and coupled with Joshua's motive, changing stories, and attempts to suppress an investigation, it led to his arrest and eventual conviction. Joshua and his new girlfriend Jen were focused on a future that involved buying a brand new house, a fresh start away from the home he'd shared with Stacy. Strikingly, Joshua rarely spoke about Stacy. He never mentioned missing her or the girl's mother, nor did he share any memories of her with his daughters. To Kaylin, the babysitter, it was as if Stacy had been completely erased from their lives. Kaylin found this behavior incomprehensible, contrasting it with her own experience of constantly sharing memories after her father's death to keep his spirit alive. Within 6 months of Stacy's death, the new girlfriend was a highly visible figure in Joshua's life and in the lives of his young daughters. She moved into the very house he had previously shared with his wife, the house where Stacy died, and even the bed where Stacy slept. Kaylin felt Jen was simply Stacy's replacement, seamlessly stepping into a newly vacated role. Joshua's colleagues at Atrium Health's Med Center noticed the same unsettling pattern. They informed investigators that Joshua seemed completely unaffected by his wife's death. They expressed deep concern to the police about the shocking speed with which he had moved on with his girlfriend and how quickly Jen had become integrated into his life. They described the speed as unseemly, inappropriate, and shocking. To them, Joshua appeared unfazed, acting as if Stacy's death was an inconvenience rather than a tragedy, as if he'd actually been waiting for it to happen. Following the collection of $250,000 from Stacy's life insurance policies, Joshua initiated a spending spree that drew significant attention and suspicion throughout the community. The insurance money immediately funded a substantial spending spree. Joshua purchased an expensive boat valued between $80,000 and $100,000, a transaction a judge later warned him not to conceal. He also took his new girlfriend on multiple expensive vacations, trips they couldn't have afforded when they were burdened by medical debt while Stacy was alive. Additionally, he paid off the mortgage on the family's Mount Holly home, valued at $215,380. Stacy's parents' wrongful death lawsuit later highlighted these expenditures, arguing they demonstrated Joshua was thrilled to be free, rich, and ready to start a new life with his mistress. For Susie's mother, these actions were massive, undeniable red flags. She learned the affair with the new girlfriend had been ongoing even before Stacy's death, continuing in secret while Stacy was in intensive care. She also knew Joshua had filed the life insurance claims for the $250,000 just days after Stacy died, before the funeral. In Susie's mind, the pieces of a darker truth were assembling. Rapid insurance claims, refusal of an autopsy and immediate cremation, new girlfriend who had been there all along, Stacy's unexplained, mysterious health problems over the years, extravagant spending, the boat and vacations, and Joshua's complete absence of grief. 9 months after her daughter's death, in May 2019, Susie Robinson made the pivotal decision to contact the North Carolina Department of Insurance. She filed fraud allegations against Joshua, suspecting he had killed Stacy for the insurance money and to be free to marry his mistress without the inconvenience of a divorce. This simple act, driven by a mother's intuition, triggered a full-blown murder investigation. Insurance Commissioner Mike Causey confirmed that Susie's referral was sent directly to their Criminal Investigations Division. A formidable team was assembled for the renewed investigation, including the North Carolina Department of Insurance Criminal Investigations Division, the Gaston County Police, and the Department of Homeland Security. Special Agent Lisa Morgan, assigned to the case, made a crucial discovery. Because Stacy had been an organ donor, the Life Share Donor Center had preserved a vial of her blood prior to cremation. This standard protocol for organ donors proved to be the single piece of evidence Joshua had not accounted for. The blood sample was sent for comprehensive toxicology testing. While standard tests for common drugs and poisons were negative, the investigators requested specialized, broader screening. The results were shocking. Insurance Commissioner Mike Causey confirmed the presence of poison in Stacy's blood, tetrahydrozoline. This is a common chemical found in eye drops used to reduce redness. Crucially, the concentration found was not therapeutic. It was 30 to 40 times higher than normal therapeutic levels, a quantity that could not be explained by accidental ingestion or normal use. The high concentration of tetrahydrozoline, 30 to 40 times the therapeutic level, indicated to forensic toxicologist Demi Garden that this was deliberate, repeated, systematic poisoning, which she described as a modern-day Mickey Finn, where a substance is secretly added to a drink. Tetrahydrozoline is a decongestant found in products like Vicine eye drops and nasal sprays. While safe when used externally, it becomes deadly when ingested. The symptoms it causes can easily mimic natural illness, making detection difficult. For Stacy, who already had a heart condition and a pacemaker, the poison was devastating, attacking her heart to make her death appear to be a simple, tragic cardiac event. Crucially, standard toxicology screens do not routinely test for tetrahydrozoline, meaning it's invisible unless investigators know specifically to look for it. North Carolina State Attorney Jordan Green emphasized that the substance has a dramatic effect on the heart, causing heart stoppage or heart failure. The inescapable conclusion was that this was not an accident. This was murder. Joshua Hunsucker's background as a flight paramedic since 2013 provided him with extensive medical training and an intimate, detailed knowledge of medications and their effects on the human body. Court documents highlighted that his experience gave him a thorough understanding of various drugs. His job also gave him the means and opportunity to commit the crime, as his employment offered access to non-controlled substances that didn't require logging or inventory control. As the investigation into Stacy's death rapidly expanded, a disturbing detail emerged. Just 2 weeks before Stacy's death, a parallel incident occurred nearby. On August 31st, 2018, a nurse named Lana Sue Clayton was arrested for poisoning her husband, Stephen Clayton, with eye drops. Clayton confessed to secretly putting the eye drops in her husband's water over 3 days until he died. This knowledge, combined with Hunsucker's medical background, suggested the murder of Stacy was a calculated, premeditated, cold-blooded murder. Joshua Hunsucker's crime was characterized as a calculated, premeditated, and cold-blooded murder given his background as a flight paramedic since 2013 provided him with extensive medical training and detailed knowledge of medications and their effects on the human body. Prosecutors drew attention to several similarities between the two cases, which received extensive media coverage in the Charlotte area. Both Hunsucker and Clayton worked in the medical field. Both were home alone with their spouse at the time of death. Both deaths were initially ruled natural, and both involved tetrahydrozoline poisoning, the active ingredient in many eye drops. Court documents allege that within days of learning about the South Carolina case, Joshua secretly placed eye drops containing a deadly amount of tetrahydrozoline in Stacy's water. Furthermore, detectives spoke to Huntsucker's former colleagues at Atrium Health's Med Center Air, two of whom testified that before Stacy's death, Joshua had explicitly told them that if he were to kill someone, he would use Vicine or other eye drops. Joshua Huntsucker's bond was subsequently revoked on January 28, 2020, due to his escalating harassment of Stacy's parents, the Robinsons. District Attorney Travis Page argued that Huntsucker's actions had violated the terms of his bond and necessitated his rearrest. A hearing was held where Judge Bill Kennedy agreed with the prosecution, deeming Huntsucker a danger to the community and a flight risk. Huntsucker was then taken back into custody and held without bond. On May 27, 2021, Huntsucker officially entered an Alford plea to the charge of first-degree murder. An Alford plea means that the defendant does not admit guilt, but acknowledges that the prosecution has enough evidence to likely secure a conviction from a jury. As part of a plea agreement to avoid a capital murder trial and the possibility of the death penalty, Huntsucker was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was additionally ordered to pay $12,000 in restitution. Before the sentence was handed down, Stacy's mother, Susie Robinson, delivered a powerful victim impact statement describing the anguish and heartbreak Huntsucker had inflicted upon their family. Huntsucker also made a brief statement, offering a limited apology, stating that he was truly sorry for the pain he had caused the Robinsons. Following his life sentence for the murder of his wife Stacy, Joshua Huntsucker's bond was initially revoked in January 2020 due to his incessant harassment of the Robinsons. He eventually entered an Alford plea to first-degree murder on May 27, 2021, and was subsequently sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, even from prison, the intimidation was relentless, clearly designed to terrify the Robinsons into silence. Then, in a bizarre and desperate attempt to shift blame, on February 4, 2023, Joshua staged his own kidnapping. He reported to police that he had been pistol whipped, zip-tied, and injected with an unknown substance while changing a flat tire, and he falsely accused Stacy's father, John Robinson, as his attacker, attempting to frame him for the assault. Mount Holly police conducted a thorough investigation and immediately concluded that Huntsucker had fabricated the entire incident, finding no evidence to support his claims. Joshua's disturbing actions did not stop there. Just weeks after the fake kidnapping report in February 2023, he committed a more heinous act by poisoning his own 11-year-old daughter, which resulted in a serious medical scare and her hospitalization. Tests confirmed the presence of the same chemical agent used to murder Stacy in the child's system, along with an unapproved antidepressant that had also been found in Huntsucker's truck. While the daughter was being treated, Joshua attempted to mislead doctors by suggesting she had been given Visine, a claim medical staff deemed inconsistent with her actual symptoms. The prosecution believes Joshua Huntsucker poisoned his daughter as part of a malignant scheme to frame the Robinsons, Stacy's parents, and thereby have them excluded from his daughter's life. This attempt at manipulation backfired drastically. In July 2024, a judge determined that Joshua had abused his daughter and neglected both of his children. His relentless efforts to control the situation continued, leading to another arrest in August 2024 for witness intimidation. By November 2024, the courts revoked his bond, and he remains in custody without the possibility of release, actions described by those involved as evil and monstrous for the extreme lengths he went to in order to avoid accountability. Adding to the list of his crimes, less than a month before his December 2019 arrest for murder, Joshua allegedly committed felony arson. On November 26, 2019, at 12:59 a.m., He is accused of setting fire to a syringe pump inside an Atrium Health helicopter while it was mid-flight over Charlotte. This reckless act forced an emergency landing at a car dealership on Independence Boulevard, although no one was injured. Investigators saw the timing as significant, suggesting the arson was a desperate attempt to create chaos because Joshua sensed his impending arrest for murder. Atrium Health expressed profound shock at his actions, calling it unfathomable that he would endanger lives in this manner. Prior to his murder arrest, Joshua was already on administrative leave for alleged workplace misconduct, and he was officially terminated from Atrium Health's Med Center Air, where he had worked since 2013, the day after his December 2019 arrest for murder. His murder trial, originally scheduled for March 2025, is now likely to be pushed back to autumn 2025 due to these significant new developments in his case, as indicated by the prosecutors through their attorney. Stacy Hunsucker's family released a poignant statement following Joshua's initial arrest, expressing their unwavering commitment. "We will not rest until justice is served. We will do everything in our power to support and care for your beautiful daughters, Piper and Willow." A high school friend, Kelly, lamented the tragedy, emphasizing that Stacy, a great mother and a happy person, did not deserve her fate. This case underscored the vital importance of financial crime investigation in solving violent crimes. Insurance Commissioner Mike Corey noted that it was unexpected for an insurance fraud investigation to evolve into a murder probe. He concluded that had it not been for Susie Robinson's mother's intuition and the preserved blood sample from organ donation, Joshua might have successfully committed the perfect crime. Stacy Robinson Hunsucker is remembered as a devoted mother, teacher, and church member. She enjoyed crafting, trips to the beach, watching sports, and photographing her daughters. She was known for a radiant smile that brought happiness and comfort to those around her. As of November 2024, Joshua remains held without bond in the Gaston County Jail. His two daughters, currently approximately 12 and 14 years old, have been removed from his care. John and Susie Robinson continue their legal battle for custody of their granddaughters. Although justice is still pending, the family remains determined that Stacy Robinson Hunsucker will not be forgotten. Late July 2021. The night is sliding toward midnight as the Regal Edwards Corona Crossings winds down for the day. Inside Auditorium 9, the Forever Purge has just wrapped. The credits fade, the lights brighten, and the scattered audience drifts out, quietly, unhurried, leaving behind the usual debris of a late showing. Nothing about the scene suggests anything unusual. It's the kind of slow Monday night theaters barely notice. A few minutes into the new day, a custodian unlocks the door and steps inside, ready to run through his routine. Flashlight, trash bag, sweep the rows, collect whatever's been abandoned. He moves with the rhythm of someone who's done this hundreds of times. Halfway through the cleanup, he spots two people still seated near the back. At first, he doesn't think twice. They look like a couple, lingering after the movie, maybe talking softly or waiting for the aisles to clear. He calls out to them, expecting a quick, "Sorry, we're leaving." Silence. He walks closer, annoyance shifting into unease. His flashlight cuts across the armrest and catches a dark smear. That's when his brain starts wrestling with what he's seeing, because that stain shouldn't be there. He angles the beam higher. The sound that leaves his mouth isn't so much a shout as a raw, instinctive scream. The woman is folded forward. The man is slumped back. Blood stains the floor beneath their seats. At 11:58 p.m., a call hits emergency dispatch. Two people unresponsive inside the theater. Possible traumatic injuries. Then the quiet night ends. Ambulances, police units, and fire crews roll into the parking lot. The building is cordoned off. Theater employees cluster outside, shaken, watching responders rush past them. Inside, paramedics confirm what the custodian feared. The woman is deceased. The young man is alive, but unconscious, fighting for breath. They load him onto a stretcher and hook him to a ventilator before wheeling him out into the night. Meanwhile, crime scene investigators sweep the auditorium. Cameras click, seats, floors, stains. Everything is documented. The room feels suspended in a surreal kind of stillness, as if time isn't sure how to move forward. Nobody on staff knows who the two victims are. Their faces mean nothing yet. By morning, their names will be everywhere. On TV, on social media, in newspapers, circulating far beyond the walls of that quiet Corona theater. The morning of July 27, 2021, rolls in quietly over Corona. People head out for their usual routines, coffee runs, school pickups, morning traffic. The day feels ordinary on the surface, but a few blocks away, something far from ordinary is already unfolding. Police have sealed off the parking lot of the Regal Edwards Corona crossings. Crime scene vans are parked in a tight cluster, lights still flashing, and long strips of yellow tape draw a hard border around the building. At this point, the public has no idea what happened inside that auditorium the night before. Even investigators are working with fragments. The identities of the woman who died and the young man who was rushed out unconscious aren't confirmed yet. What the investigators do know is unsettling. No weapon anywhere in the seats or aisles, no sign of a fight, nothing that clearly explains how two people ended up shot. The early notes in the report are painfully vague. Two victims under undetermined circumstances. The lack of a weapon rules out self-inflicted harm almost immediately, which only deepens the mystery. If neither victim fired a gun, then who did? How did a shooter get in and out of a nearly empty theater without anyone noticing? And why didn't anyone report hearing a gunshot? By midday, the first tiny news blurbs appear on Southern California websites. Just a few lines mentioning two victims found in a movie theater, no details, no names. As the story spreads, journalists begin drifting toward the theater, hoping for clarity. They don't get any. Officers tell them the investigation is active and nothing can be shared. By late afternoon, the media attention ramps up. Los Angeles stations send crews to Corona, cameras pointed at the blocked-off parking lot. Breaking news banners start appearing online. Double tragedy in Corona, shooter still at large. That's when speculation takes over. Social media attempts to fill the void. Some people insist it must have been an accident. Others jump to theories about gangs or drug disputes. None of it is grounded in fact. Residents, confused and uneasy, keep asking the same question. How does someone fire a gun inside a theater with cameras, staff, and only a handful of people around, and then disappear? Police don't confirm any of the swirling theories. Their only official statement the entire day is blunt. There's no weapon and no suspects. Detectives are combing through ticket logs and surveillance footage, trying to reconstruct a timeline that refuses to make sense. As night settles in, Corona feels unusually tense. The theater shuts its doors indefinitely. Local Facebook groups and neighborhood pages overflow with worried comments. People admit they're now hesitant to see a movie by themselves. Schools and nearby colleges even put out reminders urging the community not to share unverified rumors. Stick to official sources, they warn. By the end of the evening, one more detail emerges. Riverside County detectives and forensic ballistics experts have joined the investigation. Whatever happened inside that auditorium wasn't simple, and the case is already growing far bigger than a local police department expected. At that stage, no one knew who the two victims were or whether they even knew each other. Detectives were only beginning to piece together the final minutes inside Theater 9, reviewing every detail, every timestamp, trying to understand how the night unfolded. Reporters, meanwhile, uncovered something unsettling. The shooting happened during a part of the Forever Purge where the soundtrack is filled with rapid, explosive gunfire. That single detail explained why the few other people in the theater never realized anything was actually happening around them. Real violence had been drowned out by the movie's own chaos. It made the entire situation feel even more disturbing. There was still no suspect, no motive, and no weapon. The following morning, police finally released the victims' identities. The two weren't strangers. They were a couple on a date. Their names, Riley Goodrich and Anthony Barajas, were confirmed publicly on July 28, 2021. From that moment, what had first looked like an isolated tragedy turned into a statewide story. Anthony Michael Barajas, born August 9, 2001, grew up in Southern California with his family, Bree and Catherine. He had always been the kind of kid who drew people in, confident, warm, easy to talk to. He balanced schoolwork with sports, playing soccer, practicing martial arts, and throwing himself into school activities. Teachers often pointed out that he carried himself with a maturity most teenagers didn't have. In 2019, he joined TikTok. It started casually, quick clips, moments with friends, but his audience grew fast. By mid-2021, he was closing in on 1 million followers. He posted on Instagram too, sharing glimpses of daily life, never acting like he was above anyone. Even with the attention, he stayed grounded and friendly. He wasn't a star in the Hollywood sense, but online and in person, he was well-liked and respected. Beside him that night sat Riley Goodrich. She and Anthony shared similar energy, ambition, and kindness, though their backgrounds were different. Riley was the only daughter in a tight-knit family that supported her in everything she did. At school, she was known for her bright personality, captain of the cheer squad, active in volleyball, always showing up with a smile. Friends and teachers described her as responsible, loyal, and incredibly easy to love. After finishing high school, Riley headed to Grand Canyon University in Phoenix on a scholarship. She studied business and marketing, but no matter how busy college life got, she always made her way back home for breaks and holidays. Staying close to her family and the friends she grew up with was something she never compromised on. By summer 2021, her freshman year was behind her and she was back in Corona for the break. On July 4th, during an Independence Day get-together with friends, she met Anthony for the first time. He was a little older, relaxed, funny, and had this easygoing charm that made conversations feel natural. They clicked quickly, exchanged numbers, and kept talking afterward. Nothing heavy, just two people enjoying each other's company and seeing where the connection might lead. When Anthony suggested meeting up in person, Riley agreed, but with one condition: he had to meet her parents first. She trusted their judgment, especially her father's. At first, they weren't sure what to think. Anthony was a content creator, which didn't immediately reassure them. But after sitting down with him, their worries faded. He was polite, steady, and thoughtful. He earned their respect. And with that, Riley and Anthony set their first official date for July 26th, 2021. They had no idea that the night they were planning, a simple, hopeful summer date, would be the last evening they would ever share. That night, everything started out exactly as it should have. Riley and Anthony planned something low-key. Dinner first, then a movie. They ate at one of her favorite local spots, and around 9 p.m. made their way to the Regal Edwards Corona Crossings Theater. Riley had been there countless times growing up. It felt familiar, comforting. They picked The Forever Purge, the 9:30 p.m. showing. The theater was nearly empty, typical for a Monday night. The movie's plot centers around a society that allows violent chaos to erupt unchecked, a dystopian nightmare meant to exist only on screen. But on that particular night, the line between fiction and reality would slip in a horrifying way. The bursts of gunfire from the film would mask the real danger happening just a few rows away. No one in that theater could have guessed how dark that small coincidence would become. Around 10 p.m., while The Forever Purge played on, Riley sent her mom a quick message. Nothing dramatic, just a light complaint that the movie was a bit dull, followed by a smile in words. The company was great, and she was happy to be out with Anthony. It would be the final message her family ever received from her. Inside Theater 9, everything looked ordinary. Dim lights, the hum of surround sound, another burst of on-screen gunfire blending into the action. People ate their popcorn, some got up to use the restroom. No one paid attention to the man sitting alone near the back. He didn't appear threatening, just out of place, unsettled. Investigators would later learn he hadn't come alone. He'd arrived with a small group, but they left early, unnerved by the way he was acting. Nearly 2 hours later, the film reached its climax. The credits were seconds from rolling, and the overhead lights were about to come back on. In that tiny window of darkness, everything unfolded. 2 shots, quiet under the movie's explosive sound design, rang out without anyone recognizing them for what they were. Riley died instantly. Anthony suffered a catastrophic head injury. The movie ended. Viewers stretched, threw away their popcorn, and walked out. Not one person realized the crime had taken place just a few rows over. When the theater finally emptied, only Riley and Anthony remained in their seats, unmoving. Riley's time of death was later placed at roughly 11:45 p.m. 13 minutes after the final scene, staff called 911, unaware they were reporting one of the most shocking cases Corona had ever faced, a crime committed with precision and total anonymity. The shooter had simply slipped away. When investigators entered Auditorium 9, they found 2 bullets, each fired at close range. The angles told a clear story. The shooter had been standing directly behind Riley and Anthony. There were no signs of a fight, no attempt by the victims to defend themselves. Everything suggested a sudden, targeted attack carried out in silence. Blood was found on the seats on the floor, but nothing else that could immediately explain what happened. No weapon, no shell casings, nothing that pointed investigators toward the gun used. That missing firearm quickly became one of the biggest obstacles in the case. Without it, they couldn't determine the make or model, couldn't trace its origin, and couldn't confirm who might have had access to it. One of the earliest questions detectives explored was whether this could have been a murder followed by self-harm. Forensic analysts shut that theory down almost instantly. Neither of Riley nor Anthony had gunshot residue on their hands, which meant neither of them fired a weapon. And then there was the missing purse. Riley's bag, along with her ID and wallet, was nowhere at the scene. That raised the possibility that the attacker had taken it on the way out. Processing the theater was another challenge. Dozens of people had been in and out of that auditorium earlier in the day, leaving fingerprints on armrests, seat backs, railings, and doorknobs. Crime lab technicians collected hundreds of prints and DNA swabs. None of them pointed to a suspect. Investigators turned to surveillance footage. The parking lot cameras showed cars pulling in and out, but the resolution was too poor to identify faces. Inside the actual screening room, there were no cameras at all. Typical for movie theaters, but devastating for the case. Whatever occurred in those final minutes of the film hadn't been recorded. So detectives worked backward, reconstructing the timeline. Riley's final text to her mother came at 10:15 p.m. Neither she nor Anthony used their phones after that. The movie ended shortly before midnight. The 911 call came in at 11:58 p.m. Based on that, investigators estimated the attack happened sometime between 11:30 and 11:45. Multiple agencies were now involved. Riverside County Forensics, medical examiners, Corona PD. Every inch of Auditorium 9 was photographed and logged. The bullets recovered were sent to ballistics, and the autopsy confirmed what officers already suspected. Both victims had been shot in the head at close range. The rounds came from the same gun. By the morning of July 27th, a grim picture had formed. The shooter was inside the theater with Riley and Anthony, fired the shots while the movie masked the sound, and left before the lights came back on. No weapon left behind, no witnesses, no clear reason. One fact, however, stood out above all the uncertainty. Whoever did this acted with precision. This wasn't impulsive, it wasn't personal. It was cold, deliberate, and carried out by someone prepared to vanish into the dark without leaving a trace. At this stage, the case shifted from a tragic mystery to a full-fledged hunt for a targeted double offender. Whoever pulled the trigger had vanished, and identifying that person became the highest priority for Riverside County investigators. Once the physical evidence was documented and removed from the theater, detectives turned to the one thing that might finally point them in a direction: the people who were actually inside the room. The first task was simple: confirm who bought tickets for that 9:30 p.m. showing of The Forever Purge. The cashier remembered that only 6 tickets had been sold. 2 were Riley and Anthony's. The other 4 belonged to a small group of young men who came in together. With such a tiny audience, logic narrowed the possibilities almost instantly. Either the shooter was one of those 6, or someone slipped into the auditorium without being seen. Theater staff quickly dismissed that second theory. The doors closed automatically, and no employee reported anyone wandering in mid-film. That left the original 6. Detectives pulled whatever data the theater system had, but the trail went cold immediately. Every ticket had been bought with cash. No credit card names, no customer accounts, no digital trail. The cashier could only offer a general description. The group looked like young men in their early 20s, possibly Latino, calm, nothing hostile or attention-grabbing. And since there were no cameras inside the auditorium, a privacy standard in most theaters, there was no direct record of what happened in those final minutes. The only visual evidence came from the parking lot. It showed the 4 men stepping out of their vehicle, grabbing snacks, and walking inside. Nothing unusual, except for one member of the group. A security guard later recalled that he seemed tense, distracted, muttering to himself. Not enough to intervene, but enough to stick in memory after the fact. A disturbing question hung over the early days of the investigation. How did a double shooting take place in a nearly empty room, and no one notices a thing? The answer investigators realized was hiding in plain sight: the movie itself. The Forever Purge is set in a world where violent crime is not just common, but temporarily encouraged. Gunshots, chaos, and destruction echo constantly through its soundtrack. And on that night, those fictional bursts of gunfire synced almost perfectly with the real ones. The Forever Purge is packed with blaring sirens, frantic screams, and non-stop gunfire. The shooter had chosen his moment carefully, firing during one of the movie's loudest, most chaotic scenes. The audio masked everything. At first, detectives considered the possibility that more than one person from the group of 4 could have been involved, but the evidence didn't support that. A coordinated attack would have left more behind: more movement, more mistakes, more physical traces. Instead, everything pointed to a single individual acting alone. The other 3 men either never realized what had happened behind them or chose not to say a word. They walked out before the movie ended, unaware of the investigation that was about to swallow their night whole. Forensics soon confirmed the obvious starting point. The 2 bullets recovered were fired from the same gun, most likely a 9mm handgun. That information didn't identify a suspect, but it narrowed the field and gave investigators something concrete to work with. Authorities went public next. They released a statement asking anyone who might recognize the group of 4 young men from that screening to contact the police. It wasn't much to go on, but those 4 tickets were the only real thread in a case with almost no leads. Then the momentum stalled. Days passed with no progress, no fingerprints that pointed to anyone, no helpful witnesses, no weapon turning up in a dumpster or riverbed. Whoever fired those shots had known exactly how to slip through the cracks. 3 days after the attack, everything changed. A call came into the tip line, anonymous, hesitant, but specific. The caller said he knew someone who had been acting strangely on the night of the shooting, and that this person matched the description of one of the men seen entering Theater 9. He gave the name: Joseph Jimenez. 20 years old, from El Cerrito, just outside Corona. Investigators ran the name immediately. Records popped up, addresses, background details, and then the detail that locked their attention. Joseph Jimenez was the registered owner of one of the vehicles captured in the theater's parking lot footage that night. The break they'd been waiting for had finally arrived. That tip was enough for detectives to secure a search warrant. Within hours, officers were standing outside a small trailer on the outskirts of town. Inside, they found Joseph Jimenez. Officers later described him as detached and unfocused, his answers drifting, his thoughts scattered, occasionally mumbling or talking to himself. While searching the trailer, investigators uncovered two critical pieces of evidence: a 9mm handgun and Riley Goodrich's wallet, complete with her ID and bank cards. That immediately shifted the investigation from speculation to certainty. For the first time, they had a direct physical link tying Jimenez to the crime. The gun was rushed to the lab. When the ballistics report came back, it confirmed what investigators already suspected. This was the weapon that fired the bullets recovered inside Theater 9. Jimenez was arrested on the spot and taken to the Corona Police Department. During questioning, his statements veered all over the place. He denied involvement, claimed he'd merely found the gun, but couldn't offer any explanation for why he had Riley's personal belongings. His behavior worried detectives. At times, he'd become withdrawn, staring off as if distracted by something only he could see. Other times, he'd repeat words or stop speaking mid-sentence. A background check painted a similarly unsettling picture. He had no criminal record, lived alone, and only held sporadic part-time jobs. Neighbors later told detectives that in the days before his arrest, Jimenez had been yelling at night, engaging in heated arguments with someone who wasn't actually there. At the time, no one thought much of it. Later, those details would become central to understanding what pushed Jimenez towards such a violent act against strangers he had never met. For investigators, this moment was the turning point. A random tip had cracked open the case, but now came the hardest part: determining intent and unraveling what drove a 20-year-old to carry out such a calculated attack. After the arrest, detectives located 3 of Jimenez's acquaintances, the same young men who had gone to the movie with him that night. Their statements helped reconstruct the crucial hours leading up to the shooting. According to them, Jimenez had been acting strangely even before they entered the theater. He muttered to himself, seemed tense, avoided conversation. At the ticket counter, he barely spoke, then abruptly broke into nervous laughter. Once inside the auditorium, his behavior escalated, whispering under his breath, jerking his head around, scanning the room as if bracing for something unseen. Roughly half an hour into the film, he stood up and told his friends he was going to the restroom. When Jimenez finally returned to the auditorium, he was holding a small box. One of his friends asked what it was, and Jimenez answered, almost casually, "It's a weapon." At first, the group assumed he was joking. He had a strange sense of humor sometimes, but the look on his face shifted quickly. Whatever was happening with him that night was beyond anything they'd seen before. Uncomfortable and unsure of what to do, the group quietly slipped out of the theater. They didn't alert security and later told investigators they never imagined he was capable of violence. He'd always been odd, they said, but never dangerous. Detectives dug for any link between Jimenez and the victims: mutual friends, online messages, shared history, but nothing came up. There was no connection at all. The working theory became clearer. This wasn't targeted. It was random and carried out by someone in severe psychological crisis. In a later interview, Jimenez admitted to the shooting but insisted it was self-defense. He said he'd been hearing voices. One voice in particular, a woman he called Abigail, had been warning him that people were out to hurt him. According to him, she told him that locals were watching him, that groups from nearby neighborhoods wanted him dead. He also said he had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and had stopped taking his medication days before the shooting. Without it, he claimed, the voices grew louder and more commanding. Abigail, he told detectives, urged him to act first. On the day of the attack, surrounded by the violent imagery of the Forever Purge, he felt cornered, convinced the movie scenes were directed at him. He stepped out, retrieved a 9mm handgun he'd previously purchased for protection, and returned to the theater. What happened next, he claimed, wasn't his decision, it was the voices. That explanation created a major legal dilemma. Was he truly in the midst of a psychotic break? Or was he using mental illness as a shield to avoid responsibility? Meanwhile, Anthony Barajas was fighting for his life at Corona Regional Medical Center. Surgeons worked through the night, neurologists evaluated him repeatedly, but he never woke up. Anthony remained on life support as thousands of people rallied for him online under the hashtag #PrayForAnthony, hoping for a miracle. On July 31st, 2021, doctors declared him brain dead. His parents, surrounded by family, made the agonizing choice to remove life support. Later that day, Anthony was officially pronounced dead. He had registered as an organ donor, and because of that choice, several people received life-saving transplants, one of the few bright spots in a devastating week. A memorial service brought hundreds together. Relatives, childhood friends, classmates, and followers who had watched Anthony grow online. For Riley's family, attending that service meant reliving the loss all over again. Two families who hadn't known each other before were now bound by unimaginable tragedy. Anthony's death turned the case into a double homicide, shifting prosecutors toward pursuing premeditated charges. The trial began in February 2024 at Riverside County Superior Court. Prosecutors argued this was a deliberate act, planned, intentional. The defense countered that Jimenez was legally insane, suffering from schizophrenia so severe that he couldn't understand his actions. But prosecutors pointed to specific choices he made, stealing Riley's wallet, hiding evidence, and fleeing the theater. Those, they argued, were the actions of someone aware of what he'd done. A key witness, Carlos Gonzalez, one of the friends who went to the movie with Jimenez, testified about his disturbing behavior that night, the muttering, the anxiety, the sudden exit, and his return holding a weapon. Psychiatric experts took the stand as well, offering conflicting reports. One acknowledged the schizophrenia diagnosis, but emphasized that Jimenez still knew right from wrong. Another testified that despite his mental illness, he understood the consequences of his actions. After weeks of testimony and arguments, the jury delivered its verdict: guilty on 2 counts of first-degree homicide and theft. Riley's and Anthony's families were in the courtroom when the decision was read. For them, the verdict closed the legal chapter, but the emotional weight of what happened, the randomness, the loss, the lives cut short, never truly settled.
Lauren's home sits at the edge of a thick stretch of woods where the nearest neighbor is miles away and nighttime brings complete, unbroken silence. For a while, that felt peaceful. Lately, it started to feel more like being watched. It was an ordinary evening walk with her dog Luna when things shifted. Mid-stride, Luna simply stopped. Ears up, muscles tense, eyes fixed on a specific point in the tree line, staring the way dogs do when they're not guessing, when they know.
Luna. Luna. What? Go home. Luna, go home. No, 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 no. Luna, come on. Stop.
Lauren called her back. Luna didn't move, just kept staring into the dark, growling low in her throat. In the days that followed, Luna's behavior inside the house became harder to dismiss. She'd pace, stop in empty corners, bark at walls, watch.
What is wrong? What? What? Your big head, what? What?
Lauren didn't know what to make of it. Luna had never acted this way before, not once. Then, one night, everything seemed to escalate at once. Watch carefully.
Luna, come on.
The doorbell rang, repeatedly, insistently, with no one at the door. Luna completely unraveled. But the moment that cut deepest came from the security footage, a row of books launching off a shelf with no contact, no vibration, no logical trigger. Luna's been sensing something for weeks. Based on everything caught on camera, it's becoming very difficult to argue that she's wrong.
Whoa, I'm sorry. But I'm not sorry that I can't find something. 19 minutes, people. Just to be clear, 19 minutes until 6 o'clock.
Strange things had already been happening in this house for weeks. The man had mostly learned to live with it until he started moving items down to the basement. Old things, inherited from his family's business in Mexico, built over 60 years. He'd been packing them away one by one, almost as a precaution, after viewers urged him to isolate them.
Obviously, we've had this ghost for a while. Yeah, we've tried sage. We've tried all that. That's why we kind of made a joke out of it. But based on all of your advice, I have taken a couple of items that I've inherited from my family's 60-year business in Mexico, and I've inherited a lot of stuff. So one by one, I've been sticking a couple of things in this box in the basement. Now, when my wife said that she whistled today, and she heard something in the basement, so... Ah, dude. I'm not really sure if I should... Ooh. We've been stacking up these boxes for the kids to sit and play with. Oh, jeez. No! We'll go down, take a look at what that is tomorrow.
Then, one afternoon, his wife whistled from upstairs, and something in the basement whistled back. Shaken, he grabbed his camera and started walking toward the stairs. He didn't even make it to the bottom. A single cardboard box shifted before he touched anything. Then the entire stack launched across the room, not tipped, not sliding, thrown with force, as if whatever was down there had decided it was done being ignored. The strange part? After that night, the activity stopped completely. No more sounds, no more movement, no more responses. Whatever was disturbed by those inherited objects either left or went very, very quiet. The Santa Maria Inn has been standing since 1917, and the stories have been stacking up just as long. Guests talk about footsteps that trail them down empty hallways, doors that drift open without contact, and voices that seem to come from the walls themselves. Martha and her husband weren't looking for anything unusual when they arrived with their border collie, Oreo. They were just staying the night, but as they walked down one of the hotel's quieter corridors, Oreo stopped dead, eyes locked on a bench ahead, body rigid. And then he lurched backward.
He's looking at them. He's looking at them. Look, he's looking at He's looking at the bench. Oreo's freaking out, guys. And there's somebody sitting there. He doesn't want to go by it. You okay? It's all right. Come on. Come on. That was crazy.
They coaxed, they called, they tried everything. Oreo wouldn't go near that bench. Later, reviewing the footage at home, Martha caught something she hadn't noticed in the moment. A whisper, faint but clear, coming from somewhere near where Oreo had been staring. 2 words, "Come back." No one else was in that hallway. No staff, no guests, no one within earshot. So who was Oreo reacting to, and who didn't want them to leave? He'd done this patrol hundreds of times. Same route, same rooms, same silence. So when something sounded off that night, his first instinct was practical. Someone had gotten in. He moved through the building systematically, flashlight sweeping every shadow, checking every door. Nothing. No footprints, no voices, no sign of forced entry. And then the silence shifted. It didn't just feel quiet anymore. It felt wrong, like the building was holding its breath. He kept moving, and then the sound came.
Beer cellar? Oh, it stinks in there. What's in there? Oh, it's somewhere else. Now, look. Jesus Christ. Hey! How the fuck did that move? Okay, let's get out of here. Okay, now. Jesus Christ.
Something heavy hit the floor with enough force to echo through the entire structure. He pressed himself against the wall, barely breathing, mind racing through every logical possibility. He stepped back out, looked around. Still nothing. No person, no animal, no obvious cause. And the look on his face in that moment says more than any caption could. Whatever his training prepared him for, it wasn't this. He never once used the word haunted house, because he didn't think it was the house at all. For months he'd been waking up choking, a crushing pressure on his throat like hands that weren't there. He tried to reason it away. He tried moving rooms. Eventually, he tried leaving the city entirely, checking into a hotel far enough away that surely whatever this was, it couldn't follow. Just to be safe, he set up a camera before he went to sleep. He figured he'd wake up to nothing. He was wrong. Take a look.
Play it at normal speed and the curtain twitch looks like nothing, but slow it down and the shape becomes harder to dismiss. Something dark, low, deliberate, moving along the wall like it was aware of the lens pointed at it. That footage changed him. He stopped asking whether certain places were haunted. He started asking whether something had decided to stay with him specifically. Whether that's more terrifying or not, that's for you to decide. By the time William Sloan started filming, he already thought he knew who he was dealing with. Weeks of Ouija board sessions had reportedly given the presence a name, James. And William, rather than pulling back, kept the line of communication open, asking questions, setting up cameras, waiting for responses. One night, he noticed the old chair in his living room moving, barely perceptibly at first, like the kind of movement you convince yourself you imagined. But William was done convincing himself of anything.
Just rock it a little bit. Just a little bit. I know you can do it. Come on.
He spoke directly to it, asked it to do more, half daring whatever was there to prove itself. And according to him, it did, just not always on camera. A month later, the blinds in his living room suddenly came alive. He caught this one on tape.
I was sitting on the couch over there, and I was just watching TV and on Facebook as usual, and I don't know where Baxter is. Right there. Baxter was sitting next to me on the couch, and Hazel, boom, this girl was way back here in the hall. Okay? And all of a sudden, these vertical blinds they rattled by themselves. Like somebody just walked into them. They're shaking a little bit now, but it's because of the heating vent. It's adjacent, and they always sway a little bit. Or Baxter, he hangs out and he moves them. But we're going to try to get it to happen again. James, if you're here, move those blinds again, because that was really good. And I didn't get it on tape when it happened the first time. I don't know. I think that was the vent. It wasn't like what it did before. Holy.
What's notable isn't just the movement itself, it's how it moves. Not a gentle sway from a vent, but a sharp, full-body rattle, like something walked directly into them. William tries to reason through it on camera, pointing to the heating vent nearby, but even he doesn't seem fully sold on his own explanation. James, if that's who this was, apparently had a flair for the dramatic. 5:30 in the morning. Cold air, dense trees, a narrow mountain trail in the Philippines. The girls had only stopped for a few minutes to take photos, just long enough for the rest of the group to disappear around a bend ahead. When they realized they'd been left behind, they didn't walk, they ran. One of them kept her phone up, recording the path as they sprinted to catch up. Neither of them saw anything unusual in the moment. It wasn't until later, watching the footage back frame by frame, that the fear really set in.
Naliligaw kami, guys! Naliligaw! Wala ni mga kasama namin! Wala ni mga kasama namin. Kailangan namin silang habulin kasi maliligaw kami. Gagi, malayo na sila. Wala na.
There, in the trees behind them, a shape, dark, upright, keeping pace. And then, in the very next frame, it's simply not there anymore. No rustling, no footsteps, no explanation. The girls are certain no other hiker was on that section of trail. Whatever appeared in that footage moved without sound and vanished without a trace. Deep in that forest, something may have been watching them long before they ever noticed.
Jerry Bruce is the kind of dad whose videos are full of laughter and ordinary family life, which is exactly what makes these two recordings so deeply out of place on his channel. The disturbances had been building for a while, but May 26, 2009 was the night it stopped being ignorable. He and his wife were jolted awake by the sound of a door slamming somewhere in the living room. Jerry grabbed his phone and went to look. What the camera caught, he still hasn't fully explained.
Everybody can see this, and I've done it.
The handle on that closet door twists and rattles like someone on the other side is desperate to get out. Jerry checked. No one was in there. Viewers offered up air pressure, settling foundations, a broken latch mechanism. Jerry didn't buy it. And then weeks later, on July 11th, with his young son right there in the room, it happened again. Pay close attention.
Whoa!
The closet door drifts open on its own, and almost immediately a toy across the room flips over as if something brushed past it on its way through. Jerry didn't wait to analyze it. He grabbed his son and got out. 2 incidents, same closet, weeks apart. Coincidence seems like a stretch, but if not that, what exactly was living in there?
The night of June 19th, 2022 started like any other for this couple. They climbed into bed, drifted off, and let the house settle around them. Neither of them was fully conscious when the sound came. Neither of them could clearly recall what they heard or what they felt. For days, the memory just sat there, vague, unresolved, easy to brush off. Then they checked the security footage, and brushing it off became impossible. Chubby hesitated before posting the clip. She knew how it would look, but she also knew what she saw, and she believed people needed to see it too.
I was fully asleep at this point, and I was trying to wake up. We were both half asleep at this point, and I don't really remember what happened exactly. I just heard a sound. It wasn't until we watched the video.
The recording shows something crossing the threshold of their room, easing the door shut behind it and interfering with objects, all while they lay completely unaware. Chubby reached out to her audience, hoping someone would hand her a logical explanation.
Explanation like that's scientific to why these things are happening to us, that would actually put us at ease. I have had a few experiences at my house before this one, but nothing to this extent. So, I don't know. I think it might be following me.
The comments she got back weren't reassuring. Most people told her the same thing. Don't spend another night there. So what do you think? Coincidence or something that made itself at home? 1 month. That's all the time had passed since Rachel's grandfather drew his last breath inside the very walls Chase and Rachel were now trying to sleep in. But what happened next had nothing to do with grief. Deep in the silence of that house, their bedroom door began to move. Slowly at first, the couple watched, paralyzed. They threw their things together and headed for the door, but the house wasn't done with them. Just as Chase reached for the last bag, the door slammed hard. Watch what he does next.
And like, we're literally just...
That wasn't the end of it. Seconds later, the door started thrashing again, more violently than anything before, as if whatever was behind it had grown impatient. Chase has never been able to explain it. No draft, no mechanism, no rational cause. And the detail that unsettles people most isn't the door itself. It's the timing, like something waited until they were almost gone. Ryan had been dealing with weird stuff in his house for 2 straight weeks. Things moving, sounds at night, doors that wouldn't stay shut. His parents brushed it off, told him it was all in his head. So Ryan decided to get proof. He grabbed his camera and started recording. Look at what happened.
All right. Can you knock that can down again? Like you did earlier? Ooh. Oh my God, okay. Okay, no more.
That metal can rolled across the floor on its own and dropped off the edge. Ryan panicked, but somehow kept his hand steady and kept filming. He had his evidence. Daniel hadn't slept properly in days. It wasn't stress, it wasn't anxiety. It was the unmistakable feeling that someone was standing outside his window, staring in. But here's the thing, his apartment was on the second floor, no balcony, no pipes, no ledges.
Hey, ¿qué pedo? Mamen, si ven eso. Qué verga. O sea, lo cagado. Lo cagado. Es que estoy en un segundo piso.
You see that? A shadow, shaped exactly like a person, glided right across his curtain. Daniel flew to the window, yanked it open. Nobody there. He even went outside later and filmed the whole area in broad daylight. No structures, no angles, nothing that could have thrown a shadow like that. Most of the time, when something weird happens at home, you can talk yourself out of it. A creak, a shadow, a draft. There's always a rational explanation if you look hard enough. Sergio tried that. It didn't work. He was alone one evening watching videos when he heard it, a dog whimpering somewhere inside his apartment. The problem? Sergio didn't own a dog. He picked up his phone and started recording.
Buenas noches amigos, les habla su amigo Trovadoc. En videos previos ya les había comentado que han estado pasando fenómenos extraños aquí en la casa los últimos meses. De hecho los perros están muy acelerados ahorita porque se escucharon ruidos por el rumbo de la sala. Y aproveché ahorita para grabar a ver si captamos algo. Se ha escuchado movimiento. Hemos visto una silueta un par de veces y pues bueno, vamos a ver qué logramos y si logramos captar algo. Ay, cabrón. Aquí como ven no hay nada. Vamos a grabar donde se estaban escuchando los ruidos. Debo de admitir que estoy un poco nervioso. Ahí se puede escuchar el perro, que está un poquito alterado. No se ve muy bien. No sé qué es lo que esté pasando. Lo que se cayó fue un muñequito de Santa Claus de los adornos de Navidad. Previo a esto, donde hemos visto la silueta pasar, puse talco para ver si lográbamos captar alguna huella. Ahorita voy a prender la luz a ver si se ve algo. Estos ruidos son ya sumamente frecuentes. Estas huellas evidentemente no estaban. Hace como una hora que puse el talco y van más o menos al rumbo donde está el Santa Claus que se cayó. Que voy a parar el video porque voy a salir de la casa para tratar de ver que no haya nadie, que no se... Estoy un poco nervioso, compañeros, pero bueno, me despido de ustedes. No olviden suscribirse al canal A Caramba. Los saluda su amigo Trovadoc y denle dedito arriba para motivarnos y seguir grabando este tipo de fenómenos, a ver si encontramos alguna explicación.
A cabinet door swings open by itself. Then a doll on the counter gets shoved off like something just pushed it. But the detail that really gets under your skin? Paw prints appearing on the floor one by one, like something invisible was slowly walking across the room toward him. Sergio backed up against the wall with no idea what he was looking at. Paranormal researchers who reviewed the footage later said it had all the signs of an animal spirit, possibly a dog that simply refuses to leave. Apparently, animal entities are even harder to move on than human ones. They stay out of loyalty, out of love. If that's what this is, it's been there a long time, and it's not going anywhere. A small content creator decided to wander alone through a remote forest at night with nothing but their phone flashlight, just them, the dark, and whatever was hiding in it. For a while, everything seemed fine, just bugs, distant sounds, trees swallowing the light. Then something shifted. Keep your eyes open for this one.
Is that? What the is that? I can't zoom in, babe. Look at that. Wait, I lost it. There it is, there it is. You see that shit in the middle of the camera? What the is that? Oh, nah. Oh, nah. Oh, nah.
There, deep in the trees, something that looked like part of the forest started moving. Tall, pale, almost human in shape, but completely wrong. And just as the camera tried to lock onto it, the thing slowly straightened up, like it had been crouching this whole time, waiting. That's the moment the filming stopped and the running started. Was it a person hiding out there in the dark? Something else? Nobody's been able to answer that. This woman in France was just filming herself in the kitchen. Completely ordinary moment, nothing unusual going on. Then the atmosphere changes in an instant. Watch her face when it starts.
Je vais appeler maman. Olivier? Oli? Olivier? Oli? Oli? C'est vraiment pas drôle, là. Je vais appeler maman. Maman?
Out of nowhere, things just start flying, sliding off counters, crashing to the floor, not falling, being thrown. She completely freezes, breathing hard, just trying to process what's happening around her. Cabinets start banging, utensils scatter across the floor, and the whole thing feels less like a poltergeist and more like something that is genuinely furious. The video cuts before we get any answers. Was it paranormal? A hoax? Something in between? Whatever it was, that woman was absolutely terrified, and that part is very hard to fake. Leandro was half asleep when something in the back room started making noise. He told himself something probably just fell over and tried to ignore it, but it didn't stop. It kept going, getting louder, more deliberate, like whatever was back there knew exactly what it was doing.
1 de julho de 2023. Nunca deixe sua porta aberta, ou isso vai acontecer na sua casa.
Será que é gato que tá aqui? Mexendo nas coisas? Mas não tem ninguém aqui. Ai, caramba. Acho que tem alguém aí. Que susto, velho.
Que isso? Para! Que isso? Quem tá aí? Tranquei. Meu Deus, cara. Mãe.
O que tá acontecendo?
Não sei. Parece que tem alguém aqui.
Nossa, tem que parar de ver esses vídeos aqui. Eu tô com medo já dessas coisas. Não tem ninguém, tem batendo na porta.
His stomach must have dropped the second he opened that door. The entire room was destroyed, furniture flipped, stuff thrown everywhere. It looked like something had completely lost its mind in there. And the thing is, he lived alone. He slowly backed out and shut the door, and that's when the handle started violently shaking from the other side, like something wanted out. Heart in his throat, he threw the door open again. Spotless. Everything perfectly in place. Back door locked. Whatever had been in that room, it didn't leave through any door. Sandra and her husband were having a normal, quiet weekend at home when things started getting hard to explain. Have a look.
What the? What? Like, why?
Is it going off?
Yeah, by itself again. Like, this is getting weird.
Is it grinding the actual?
Yes!
What the hell?
That is what I'm saying, what the hell?
Turn it off.
I did. Right.
Actually, turn it off underneath. Underneath, turn it off.
And it's button, like, it's a button thing. So, like, it should not turn on unless someone presses the button. And I'm the one in front of it. So there's no reason. And if it's mom doing it, Brad, it's right when I said mom.
I know. Hit it again, turn it off.
Mom, is that you doing that? I'm not making this up.
I know you're not making this up. I'm watching it. I'm seeing it right here. I just gotta chill when that happens.
Their device just switches on by itself. No one touched it. Then it keeps doing it, almost like it's responding every time they speak, reacting to their voices in real time. Sandra thinks it's her mom. Her mother had passed away recently, and the strange occurrences started right around the same time. The last thing Sandra ever said to her was that it was okay to let go. But what if the thing responding to her voice in that room wasn't her mother at all? What if something else heard her grief and decided to use it? Ethan was in that sweet spot. A few last peaceful days to himself before his partner moved in. Binge-watching shows, no responsibilities, just vibing. Everything was completely normal, until it wasn't. Take a look. He's just sitting there when the door handle twitches. He blinks, tells himself he imagined it. Then it starts shaking like something on the other side is desperate to get in, followed by slow, deliberate knocking. He opens the door. No one. He sits back down and tries to move on. Next day, same thing happens in the bathroom, only louder. So this time, he films it. And then a few days later, while he's recording, he freezes. Something leaned out from around the corner and looked directly at him. He ran to check. Nothing there. But that feeling of being watched, that stuck around. When you walk into this man's apartment, the first thing you notice is religious items everywhere. Crosses on every wall, scriptures, handwritten prayers on every surface. It looks like deep faith, but it's actually fear. It all started after he visited his father's grave. Something came home with him. Small things at first, noises in the night, objects not quite where he left them. Then one afternoon, he woke up from a nap to a loud clatter from the kitchen, grabbed his phone, and hit record.
Bueno, estoy grabando este video porque estoy tratando de dormir, pero acabo de escuchar un golpe duro por allá en la sala, entonces decidí grabar porque hace días que se viene presentando cosas extrañas en el apartamento. Son las 4:13 minutos de la tarde, entonces me parece muy extraño que hasta ahora están sucediendo como cosas raras. Entonces, comedor. Miren, es en el comedor. Tengo las ventanas cerradas, miren. Esto viene sucediendo hace como una semana ya. Pues la verdad se me hace muy extraño. Se me hace muy extraño que estén pasando cosas así.
Kitchen utensils just swaying, no window open, no breeze, total silence. A few days later, it got worse. He stood in his apartment, demanding out loud that whatever was there needed to leave.
En el nombre de Jesús te ordeno que te vayas. En el nombre de Jesús ordeno que te vayas. No tienes derecho de estar aquí. Ordeno que te vas. Ordeno que te vas en el nombre de Jesús.
The room went completely still. Then, a single piano key pressed down behind him. One clean note in dead silence. He bolted, but it still wasn't done. A few nights later, at 3 in the morning, he and his girlfriend were ripped out of sleep by something going through the kitchen.
Bueno, voy a grabar este video porque nuevamente se están escuchando en el apartamento ruidos. Son las 3 de la mañana con 16 minutos y...
Escucha, escucha, escucha.
Sí, amor, sí se escucha. ¿Es en la sala?
Sí. Escucha, escucha.
Esta vez no estoy solo, esta vez estoy con mi novia que por fin decidió venir a acompañarme, pues estaba asustada debido a todas estas cosas que están pasando. ¿Dónde es eso, amor?
La cocina.
¿Qué fue eso?
¿Qué te ayudó?
Yo voy a mirar. ¿Qué es aquí, amor? ¿Qué es aquí? Señor bendito. Amor, quédese acá, quédese acá, yo voy solo, amor.
No, yo no.
Prenda la luz, prenda la luz. Se ve todo tranquilo por acá. En el nombre de Jesús, manifiéstate. Parece que es en la cocina. En el nombre de Jesús, manifiéstate. Vaya para el cuarto, amor.
No.
¿Qué fue eso? ¿Estás viendo, amor? ¿Estás viendo? Es en la cocina, amor. Cuidado con la cocina. Manifiéstate en el nombre de Jesús. Te ordeno que te manifiestes. Yo creo que eso no hace ahorita, ¿no?
La cocina.
Mierda. Mira, amor, mira. ¿Ves que no tiras, amor? Es un vaso. Es un vaso. Mira, todos los cajones están abiertos. ¿Qué pasa aquí, Dios mío?
Watch this. Wind chimes thrashing, stuff all over the floor, and no sign of how anything got in. His girlfriend started feeling physically sick almost immediately after. And then came the worst night of all. He's standing in the dark when something charges straight at him, full speed, out of nowhere. Something hit him. He felt it, and there was absolutely no one there. He's been praying ever since, because whatever followed him home from that cemetery never left.
This guy's filming a big old tree behind an abandoned house late at night. Everything's dead quiet, almost uncomfortably quiet. Then within seconds, that quiet completely falls apart. Watch.
This is the second time I've come over here. And the first time when I got up under them trying to figure out what it was, they started breaking limbs off and throwing them at me. And I still cannot figure out what it is. Look, they're ruining this freaking place. Look, that's bigger than me. Look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. What in Jesus' name is doing this? Oh my God, he just took half the tree down. Something, oh my God, oh my God. Oh, it's gotta be a, I don't even think a bear would have a chance in Hades, and they're doing this. It's something stronger than a bear. I think I'm gonna bounce, because I think he just hit the ground, which means he's about to face me on foot. And I don't really want to wrestle with somebody that can tear trees down.
The branches start going absolutely haywire. No wind, nothing, and then a massive limb just snaps clean off and slams into the ground. The guy explains, clearly shaken, that this isn't even the first time. Something in that tree had already been hurling branches at him earlier in the night. He keeps filming and it just keeps getting worse. More breaking, more crashing, like something enormous is tearing through it from the inside. Then it goes quiet, and he realizes the thing might have come down. Whatever was up in that tree was strong enough to rip it apart, and now it was somewhere on the ground with him.